One more thing. The Dallas Mavericks are making the NBA Finals. What did we learn in the Timberwolves series? And on the way here, let's talk about it right now.
I'm here because I have to be.
Dallas is going to get a seat at the table.
That's it. It's me versus the machine. Don't let his lightness take away from his quickness.
You can rest later. You're young.
I need to recover here.
Wait. One more thing.
Yeah. We can let the one more thing music ride, right? Welcome. You're still locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and your best friend covering the Dallas Mavericks on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day in the finals. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest, most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use that code LockedOnNBA, all lowercase. The first deposit match up to $100. One more thing. It's the bonus version of Locked On Mavs. Do the regular episode, doing the one more thing. Let's talk about what we've learned so far and what we learned in this Timberwolves series. I wanted to do why they beat the Timberwolves. Then I was like, you know what? Let's just do what we've learned and review everything, because after this, we'll just start looking forward, and we'll start looking forward at the series coming up. We'll do crossovers with Locked On Celtics, all that kind of stuff. So let's talk about some things that we've learned. Starting with this, Luka and Kyrie are unguardable. They just played the best defense in the NBA. And the reason why they won in 5 games was because Luka and Kyrie. Luka, 32.5 points a game, 9.5 rebounds, 8 assists a game, 3.5 turnovers. So an incredible assist turnover ratio, an incredible number of turnovers for a guy that has the ball as much as he does. Luka shot 47% from the field, 43% from 3, went to the free throw line about 8 times a game, 85% from the free throw line there. Luka was unguardable. They tried Jaden McDaniels on him, and that was just not an answer. They saw that, and Mavs saw that early and often. In game 1, by game 1, the end of the first quarter, we could tell Jaden McDaniels not going to be the answer. Jaden McDaniels made All-NBA defense. Rudy Gobert made All-NBA defense. You only get 10 players on those teams. They got 2 of them. And it wasn't anything to Luka. Shot the ball well. Shot the ball from 3 well, 43%. He took 10 a game, but that was kind of par for the course for the NBA season. Took 10 a game, shot 38% from 3. So Luka, yes, he hit some threes for sure, but Luka was dealing all over the place, getting to the rim, assists, shooting his mid-range shot, all over the place. Luka was unguardable. He solved the defense. He solved the best defense in the NBA. To me, that's maybe something we already knew and already had learned, but if he does it against the best defense, then what's there left to say? Unguardable. Kyrie, same thing. He did struggle against the Thunder. He struggled to score against the Thunder. They were selling out to beat him, and that's why PJ Washington, Derek Jones Jr. had such big games. The Timberwolves decided not to do that. They didn't want to do that fully. They kind of did it in game 4. They didn't have a choice in game 5 because Luka was just dominating them. But Kyrie in the conference finals, 27 points a game, 4.5 assists, shot 49% from the field, 37% from 3. If you're just going to do one-on-one against Kyrie, he's going to figure out a way to beat you. Got to sell out. And then when you sell out, other guys will get open. And so maybe Boston will do the same thing where they'll sell out and then PJ and Derek Jones Jr. and all the centers, they have to beat you instead. Maybe they'll do that. But Kyrie, we've learned that Kyrie is unguardable. If you're just going to go one-on-one against him, it's not an answer. And then all of a sudden, you can't go one-on-one against either of these guys, so then what do you do? Thunder did it better than the Timberwolves, I think. They had better one-on-one defenders, it felt like. Or at least better answers to what the Mavericks wanted to do. The Timberwolves' defense in the regular season, by the way, 108.9. points allowed per 100 possessions. Boston's is 112. Oklahoma City's is the same as Boston's. The Timberwolves were 3 points per 100 possessions better than these two teams defensively in the regular season. And the Mavs just made them look. They carved them up. Those two unguardable. They set the tone. They're the reason why they won this series. The one game that The one game that these two didn't have the stellar performance, Kyrie was underwhelming. They lost that game. Not a coincidence. Not a coincidence at all that those two guys stepped up the way that they did. The other thing that I think we learned is their defense is elite, and it's their identity. We knew that this team was a really good defense, but now they've seen the Clippers with Harden and Paul George, whether Kawhi's there or not. Kawhi was there for 2 games, but whether he was there or not, still 2 all-star guys. They've seen Harden and Paul George. They've seen SGA and Jalen Williams, and now they've seen Cat and Anthony Edwards. This defense is elite, and it's their identity. They only have had 5 bad defensive games, and they won 2 of them. They had a bad game in the very first game of the OKC series. Mavs allowed 127 defensive rating. Game 4 against the Clippers, 125. They lost both those games. Game 6 OKC, the Mavs won that game, but they allowed 120 offensive rating for the Thunder. Game 3 against the Timberwolves, they allowed 119 offensive rating to the Timberwolves, but the Mavs won that game. And kind of those are the only 4 bad defensive games they've had. The rest of them have been very good. They've had some elite defensive games against some of these teams with good offenses. Oklahoma City, the number 3 offense in the regular season. Boston's number 1, so that's something that we've really got to watch. But I think we've learned that this defense is elite, and they need to lead with it. They need to lead with their defense. It's their identity. It's part of who they are. PJ Washington, Derrick Jones Jr., being the 2 wings that can guard, that can switch, and all that is part of it. Playing big, having Gafford and Lively at the rim, leading guys to the rim, taking away the 3, that's going to be huge against Boston. Taking away the 3 against Oklahoma City was massive. Just make those guys take tough mid-range jumpers. Anthony Edwards, he was forced to take tough mid-range jumpers. Only got up 6 threes, and the ones that he got up were deep threes. He hit 4 of them in game 5, so good for him. But the ones that he took were deep, couple feet behind the line. Had to pull up. It was kind of, not I guess it's a desperation shot because they were down by 30. Towns struggled the whole time against PJ Washington. So against size and all that. I mean, this defense is elite. It's the Mavs' identity. It's what got them here. They have to lead with that. And then Luka and Kyrie give them just enough points, just enough stuff to really get them going. And I think that that's something that we've learned through this whole process is, man, this Mavs team has faced some challenges. They faced the Thunder, who are the 3rd best offense in the league, the Clippers, who are the 4th best offense in the league, and then the Timberwolves were the 16th best offense in the league. So they really hadn't stepped up, but they had stepped up in the playoffs. But they faced 2 of the top 4, and now they'll face number 1 against Boston. And that is going to be an interesting matchup because if Boston's offense can make the Mavs defense look pedestrian, then maybe in for a problem. But so far, we've seen this Mavs defense not cave. Like I mentioned, only 4 out of their, all the games they've played, they've played 15, 16 games. Only 4 out of their 16 games so far have been bad defensive games. They do not fold. They have not folded so far a bunch of times, which they wouldn't be here if they had if they had folded, basically. I think their defense is a thing that we've learned, a thing that we've looked at. That's all right. Proof of concept has been proven. 3 rounds is enough for me to know this is a playoff defense. It's not just smoke and mirrors regular season. This is not just matchups. This is not just, they played against these, all these young teams. Sure they did, but they also played against the Clippers with older guys that have been around and have been in big playoff moments and things like that. Boston's going to be a different test for sure, but I think that we've seen that this team is established. This team can win and all that kind of stuff. I'm fascinated to see how this defense looks against Boston, but for now, we can feel good about that. This defense is a good defense. It's an elite defense. It's their identity. Coming up, let's talk about what we've learned from some of the Mavs role players, specifically Dereck Lively. What do we learn about him? What do we learn about PJ Washington? What the Mavs need from him? What they don't need from him? Let's talk about that coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks Daily Fantasy made easy. All you have to do is go to PrizePicks, pick more or less on 2 to 6 players' stat projections. You just go there and see what they have. They'll have stuff for NHL, for the Stanley Cup, with the Stars hopefully getting there. They'll have stuff for baseball with the Rangers. They'll have stuff for the Mavs for the finals. The finals, man, that's so awesome. Go check it out. See what they have available. You can win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 with basketball, hockey, all kinds of entries on PrizePicks. It's America's #1 sports app. So go check out PrizePicks. Download the app today or go to prizepicks.com. Use that code LOCKEDONNBA, all lowercase, LOCKEDONNBA, for a first deposit match up to $100. Put down $100. They match it. You get $100 to use there. prizepicks.com/LOCKEDONNBA. It's the One More Thing by Locked On Mavs. We're talking about things that we've learned in the lead up to now the finals. Incredible. Incredible every time you say it. Just such a great feeling. We talked about Luka and Kyrie being unguardable, Dallas' defense being elite, 2 things that will be greatly tested against the Boston Celtics. But now let's talk about the role players. What have we learned? We learned that Dereck Lively II is, first of all, an amazing human. Already knew that. But that he is a 16-game player. People talk a lot about, okay, who's good here, who can play, who's an NBA player, who's not around the draft. Then, once you're established as, okay, then who are you a starter? Can you be a starter? Are you an NBA player? Answer that question. Are you a starter? And I know that there's a lot of the European listeners get frustrated about that. Why is everyone obsessed about who's a starter and who's not? It's about status. It's about who you are as a player. If you're a guaranteed starter, that means that you are one of the 5 best players on the team. For the most part. The Mavs have kind of made an exception here. But then you go, okay, so you're a rotation player. Are you a starter? Are you not? Are you a closer? Can you close games for your team? That's like another level. And then all of a sudden you get to, are they a 16-game then are they a playoff player? Can they play in the playoffs? 2021, the Mavs played the Clippers to 7 games, and Jalen Brunson was not a playoff player for them. He did not look good in the playoffs. Looked bad. Looked overwhelmed, overmatched. Was getting beat, was getting destroyed on defense. He was not that. He became that, and he became a 16-game player, and shout out to him. So then you're like, are you a playoff player? Can you play in the playoffs? And then all of a sudden, then the next question is, are you a 16-game player? 16-game player, 16 wins in order to win an NBA title. So a 16-game player is somebody that you can put on a title team rotation and go to the finals. We've learned that Dereck Lively is that. Dereck Lively is a 16-game player. He not only is effective as a starter in the NBA, a rotation player, a playoff player, but he is invaluable to this team and was very good. I am kind of shocked at how good he has been this whole playoffs. How he's looked calm, how he's looked composed, how he's been effective. We talked about the plus minus between the 2 centers. Lively's plus 6.8 on average. And Gafford is minus 1.8. The Mavs have been better when Dereck Lively is on the court. He's playing about 22 minutes a game. He's hitting a bunch of his shots. He's getting to the free throw line. 7.2 rebounds in 21 minutes. 1.5 assists. Not turning the ball over too much. Blocking some shots. Getting some steals. I mean, he is just really stepping up in that way. And him being a 16-game player is massive. We were hoping when he got drafted that he would be a rotation player. They could play him 10 minutes a game, 20 minutes a game in the regular season. Now he's playing 20 minutes a game in conference finals. In playoff games. It's incredible. It's incredible. He's a player that can play, and I'm not worried that he'll be able to play against the Celtics. I know he'll be able to play. That's incredible. That's amazing to me. that we have answered the question, is Dereck Lively a 16-game player in his first season? There's some centers that are not. The next thing I think that we learned is that the Mavs didn't need PJ Washington as the third scorer averaging 20 points a game. In the Thunder series, in game 2 and 3, he had 29 and 27 points. And there were Thunder fans like, oh, you just got lucky with PJ Washington hitting all these shots. And PJ Washington did hit his shots. Shot 47% from 3 in that series. Averaged 18 points a game, was the Mavs' second leading scorer. He averaged more points in the Thunder series than Kyrie Irving did because of the way the Thunder were defending them. And so there were a lot of Thunder fans that were like, oh, you just got lucky with him and with Derrick Jones Jr. Well, they didn't get that at all in the Timberwolves series, and they still won. He was the third scorer in the Timberwolves series, third leading scorer for the Mavs, averaged about 12 points a game, but he only shot 37% from the field, 25% from three. He took 6 threes a game, and he took under 4 twos a game. So it's not like he was taking advantage of his matchup the way that he was against the Thunder. Against the Thunder, he would only have one-on-one coverage, or maybe not even one-on-one coverage, and he would take the ball to the hole and finish and all that, and finish against Chet and whoever. And so all of a sudden you're like, man, are the Mavs going to all of a sudden rely on PJ Washington? Nope. Didn't need him as the third scorer, scoring 20 points a game. He helped. He contributed for sure. But if you told me that, hey, PJ Washington averaged like 12 points a game, but he shot 25% from three, 37% from the field, I'd be like, ooh, did the Mavs lose? You know, like if you said that before the series, you would maybe think that the Mavs struggled. They don't need him. They're not reliant on him to be that guy. He was that in the Thunder series, and then you're like, okay, is this the recipe now? No. They found other ways to win. Their defense was good enough. Their offense gave him just enough. PJ Washington contributed, but even though he struggled to shoot, they didn't die offensively because he struggled. I think that's something we learned. Another one, Jaden Hardy was ready for his moment. Tim Hardaway Jr. and Dante Exum were not. Hardy averaged 10 minutes a game in the Western Conference Finals. Over the 5 games, 37 points, shot 54% from the field, hit 6 of his 10 threes, 5 assists, 4 turnovers. 5 assists is not a lot over 5 games, but 4 turnovers, you'll take that, man. He just needs a positive assist to turnover ratio, and he got it, 5-4. Hardy was ready for his moment. I love it. I love that he was ready for his moment. You know what? Should we?
Party, let's go party.
He was ready for his moment. The laugh gets me. Shout out to the listener who made this. Hardy was ready for his moment. Tim Hardaway Jr. played 10 minutes in game 1, played 5 minutes in game 2, never saw him again. Mavs' third highest paid player, Mavs' third leading scorer in the regular season, was not ready for the moment. Jason Kidd knew it. Not ready for his matchup, not ready for this series. Didn't play. Didn't even play in garbage time, which who knows why he didn't play then. Exum played about 5 minutes a game, and that includes some garbage time in game 5, so he really played like 3-4 minutes a game. Kidd threw him in stretches, but he just did not step up in the way we saw him in the regular season. If you told me that, if you told me before the season started, hey, Western Conference Finals, Hardy averages 10 minutes a game, is like the Mavs' 8th guy off the bench, or the 8th guy in the game. Tim doesn't play in 3 of the 5 games, and Exum plays 4 minutes a game. I think I would have been like, what the hell just happened? What the hell? Did they get dominated? Did the Mavs get dominated by 30 every game? Jaden Hardy stepped up in a huge way. You love to see it. Last thing I think we learned is that Josh Green can contribute. He was 7th on the Mavs in minutes per game. He averaged 18.9 minutes a game in the Timberwolves series. Hit 4 of his 9 threes, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 steals over the 5 games. That's not a lot of counting stats. It's 2 rebounds a game, 1 assist, 1 steal. And in about 19 minutes, that doesn't sound like a lot, but they're crucial possessions, crucial buckets. He contributed. He was a positive. Kyrie, Hardy, and Josh Green, that little backcourt is better than the Kyrie, Hardy, Tim Hardaway Jr. one that they tried to do in the Thunder series, and they tried to do in the regular season that just drove me insane. But Josh Green being able to contribute, being a defender that came in, defended Anthony Edwards pretty well. They're going to need him in the next round. I think that was kind of like a low-key big moment for the Mavericks that they had Josh Green, because if all of a sudden Exum can't really play, Tim can't really play, Omax is out and probably wouldn't play in the series anyway. If Josh Green couldn't play too, then what are you doing? Then where are you going with your wings? Josh Green being able to play and being able to contribute, being a positive player, was kind of a really big deal for the Mavericks. 18 minutes a game. Wild. Love that. Hardy and Josh Green stepping up in big ways. Hardy, Josh Green, Dereck Lively, all stepping up in huge ways. The Mavs young guys. They came to play. Gafford, 25. He came to play too. Started. Contributed a lot. PJ Washington, 25. He was huge for them. These are not like old guys that the Mavs have that they're trotting out there. Their oldest guys, Maxey and Kyrie, are both 32. So old. So old. The young guys came to play. The young guys contributed. This culture brought them along and all that. Those are some of the things I learned. Let me know in the comment section on YouTube. What are the things that you've learned? Guys, thanks so much for hanging out with me on The One More Thing. We'll have more all throughout the playoffs. We appreciate each and every one of you for checking out this bonus show. Subscribe on YouTube, trying to get to 50,000 subscribers. Subscribe on podcasts. Appreciate you guys.